Over the last month, we had a banking crisis. Once again, there's a headline of banks failing across the board. We had a lot of regional banks in the US come under pressure. We had the Fed and the Treasury and the FDIC come in and save the day, quote unquote. Um, let's just start there. Like when you guys start to see these headlines of banking collapses again, reminiscence of 2008 and other banking crises that happened across the world, what initially went through your heads? Let's start with Stefan. Why don't we throw it to you, and then we'll get Safe's
Sure.
take.
So we had these different banks fail. We had Signature, Silvergate, and one other, I believe. But anyway, the point is really that these banks, they're failing for different reasons, right? It's not all the same. They fail in different ways, but the system has to just keep re-upping the thing. They have to just keep trying to find a way to kick the can and keep the thing going. And so that seems to be the moral of the story. The moral of the story seems to be, if something goes wrong, let's socialize the losses. And so unfortunately what happens is those who are more politically connected, they get bailed out, or they, as a depositor, they get made whole, and the system takes the cost. And so in this case, what we saw was the FDIC is sort of riding to the rescue, saying, "Oh, okay, well, we initially said only people with a deposit balance up to 250,000 will be made whole, but actually, we're going to call it systemic risk, and now we're just going to make everyone whole, even if your balance is over 250,000." And so, what does this mean? Well, let's see it like this: FDIC has to be able to cover the amount of balances that people have, and FDIC is funded through contributions by all of the banks. So the depositors at the banks are effectively paying for that. And really, who's backstopping this system, right? What happens if FDIC runs out of money? Guess what? That's the taxpayer on the line, right? The Treasury is going to have to, so there is no free lunch. Someone somewhere is going to be paying for this. Either the depositors are paying for it through increased insurance premiums. The, Treasury is going to, they're just going to have to print more. Or and the other way is they are pushing that cost out onto everyday people who are holding dollars or holding bonds. You are just being devalued. So that's I think the simple way to understand it. But the high level understanding of it really is that the system is inherently fragile, and that's just a consequence of fiat fractional reserve banking. So that's how I'd answer that.
Safe, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I'd say I think I agree with Stefan. I think the issue fundamentally comes down to that, and I think this is the nice thing, perhaps the silver lining to the whole thing, was the fact that a lot of people simply started asking the question, why can't I just have a place where I can just keep my money and not have to worry about all of these things that are completely out of my control, Argentinian bonds and interest rate risk. Why can't they just keep the money? And, when you think about it, basically, even with how bad inflationary money is, a lot of people would happily take a service that really just offered physical cash moving around, where you actually had to put up physical cash and they actually moved your own physical bills. Even something so expensive as that, people would be willing to put up with it, even with the cost of moving it around and even with the inflation, because at least it allows them to complete payments. It allows them to move their money around. This is such an important thing that people will put up with all kinds of bullshit, and yet you still can't even have that. Like, you can't just even get the ability to save in a form of money that you can put in a bank and have the bank operate. No, you have to be an unsecured creditor to large financial institutions. It's not up to you. You don't get to choose. You were born to do this. You have to be an unsecured creditor. And who knows? Like, one day something happens and then just the bank blows up and your entire business goes out of business. And it's in a sense, it's like what Max Kaiser describes as financial apartheid, in that you're just stuck on this treadmill where you need to be losing losing your wealth to inflation on the one hand, and then playing the check deposit account casino, where particularly if you're going to move into running a business, you're going to need to essentially become an unsecured creditor to your bank without any FDIC deposit. The $250,000 is not a lot of money if you're running a business in the US today. It's dollars after all. um, but still, you just can't have a choice. You can't move your money around, and it's amazing. This is how the fiat banking system operates these days. You have to gamble, and you have to, you know you just witness this whole thing blows up. And like when they bail them out, effectively it's an admission that, yeah, we should have something like that, except we can't, because obviously we need inflation much more. But why would you bail them out? I mean, this is, if this is not fraudulent and this is just the free market choosing, then why should they be bailed out? Like, if you think they should be bailed out, then clearly a far superior option would be to just give them the benefits of having the option of banking with a money bailment service.
Yeah. Well,
One thing I wanted to add there is that I think a lot of people don't know the system that they are in, right? That's just the fundamental reality. Like, if we saw people even on Twitter, even people who are well-known VC individuals who should have known better, they seem to act as though the bank should be full reserve despite living in a fractional reserve system. They did not even understand that concept. And I'm sure if you just talk to the random man on the street and you ask him, hey, that money that you think you have in your bank account, is it there? Right? They would say, yeah, I think it's there. I think it's all there. Right? That's what they would say. So isn't it interesting that this is the system we're in, where systematically people are being tricked? They are being lied or allowed to believe through an emission. They are being allowed to just believe that the money is there and it's available for them whenever they want, when really that's not the case.